Welcome everyone to another surprise special guest Sunday episode of 1111. Today's surprise guest is someone who absolutely exudes, lives, breathes, and shares everything you would want in a best friend. She's kind, she's compassionate, she's more fun than a barrel full of monkeys. She sees the light and the bright and the humor and everything. She is literally a change maker, which you will hear more about later. And the moment I learned of her existence and we got to chat, I didn't want to scare her, but I thought, ooh, you're probably going to be stalked by me because you're a keeper. And she's the kind of person you want to turn to get your answers you need about just how to live these days, because she knows what we all need at this very unusual time in our history. And she's using her knowledge and expertise to enrich lives, make people feel better, and just kind of put a smile on people's face. So with that, mystery guest, will you please tell us who you are and what you do?
Hello, Joy. This is Unyong Kim. I'm smiling so wide right now because your energy, I think, draws interesting people. And I feel honored to be one of those that you've invited into your world.
It's more like weirdos, I hate to say. Tell us about what you do.
So what I do is I help change makers prevent burnout. And I do that through very specific, easy, elegant skills. What I'm going to say is that, and this is going to probably piss off some of the change makers out there.
Excellent.
Just for being forewarned out there, all of you healers, educators, activists, leaders, which the acronym spells HEAL, incidentally, you are so needed right now. The world needs you. And what I'm going to say is that it is not acceptable for you to be a martyr. It's not acceptable for you to feel guilty being with your child and not working on the cause. It is not acceptable that you do not have time for lunch. It is not acceptable that you do not have time for your physical health and well-being. It is not acceptable that you are expected to sleep on the couch overnight, or else you're considered a slacker in the office. Those are things that are not acceptable because those are the road to burnout. And what I say is that change makers are not only one individual having a ripple effect in the world, they are a tsunami when it's done right.
Thank you, Unyong. You are not just bringing together change makers, you are changing the change maker archetype.
Oh, Joy, you just said it. Because for many change makers, there's a culture of martyrdom. There's a culture of putting others first, which I understand. There's in many traditions, there is the tradition of compassion and service. What people fail to get is that compassion and service to oneself is primary. It is primary that we see ourselves as people deserving of rich, loving relationships, the coffee with your spouse, the moment with your friend, your child. Those are not luxuries. Those are essential to life. Those are what give life meaning. And at your deathbed, you're not going to say, oh, I wish I had done more sales funnels. Right?
Right.
It's the things that are less urgent, but are vitally important. Those are often the things that get regret.
Yep. And what I love is that if you are taking the time to have, coffee with your spouse, it isn't just for you. It's for each of you and both of you. And then the attitude and demeanor each of those parties will take to their next interaction with someone is going to be infinitely better and more productive because they're coming from a place of calm and love and care as opposed to coming from a place of stress and I don't know how to integrate my email contacts and all that. So it's coming from such a better place. And I'm not saying those other things aren't important, but this idea of caring for others, as you said, you can't do it unless you're already cared for it because then you've got nothing to give. How can you give from an empty cup?
Totally understand why change makers get into this burnout track, because often self-care goes at the very bottom of the list. If I have enough time and if I have enough energy after the to-do list items, right? The sale,
Right.
I'm just going to call it the sales funnel
Oh,
stuff.
that's perfect.
Okay. It's like after all the sales funnel stuff, if I have time, and who has the time? Who has the energy after all that, right? Because there's always more to do. So here's what I'm going to say is that change makers require a skill set that they don't often cultivate. The skill set is one of self-care and self-compassion. I'm not saying, oh, you need to fit a 1 hour long gym routine or 2 hour lunch with your friend. It doesn't have to be in big chunks of time, that it can be easy and elegant, and you can leverage the very things that are in your life right now in order to integrate these small, small habits that make a tremendous difference. And one of my heroes is radical innovator Buckminster Fuller. He's like a Renaissance man, always innovating. And he had a principle called the Dymaxion principle, which refers to what is the minimum effort in to get the biggest return on investment. So the minimum in, maximum out. And one of those things, and we can do it right now, is to take a conscious breath, to scan your body, and just take another conscious breath. Just having the power of observation and conscious breath have a profound effect. Notice how you feel right now, Joy. Yeah, yeah. And I feel myself tingling sometimes because we get so into our heads and we are often in a stress mode, striving for the person we think we should be. That's a dissonance, right? From being where we are, loving and accepting where we are.
My favorite Shakespeare story and movie has a quote, self-love is not so vile a sin as self-neglecting.
Yes, I love that.
And I'm not surprised what you said about Buckminster Fuller because of what you said about ease and elegance, because that to me pretty much encapsulates his whole approach.
Here's a metaphor from him that shapes very much my approach, is that he was always standing back and observing and contemplating, right? And on his epitaph is the words, call me trim tab. And some people might know what a trim tab is, but I'll share for those who don't know. On a huge ocean going vessel, there's a rudder that can weigh many tons. It's huge, massive steel to turn such a big boat, right? A trim tab is a flap of metal, smaller, on the rudder. So it is a rudder that turns the rudder, which then turns the boat. He was the trim tab for society. He was able to find the elegant thing that would turn and make change on a large scale, but with the most elegant minimum effort. So the things that I want to teach change makers is that there are many things like that in our world for changing the course of your boat from burnout to thriving.
If it's a boat from burnout to buoyancy, I don't know. So how did you get into your line of work, by the way?
This is such a good question. I'm sort of listening to what my intuition is telling me to share. Because normally I would say, oh, I got into it because I used to teach yoga. And during the pandemic, I shifted to online. And then I started realizing that stress relief doesn't just need to happen in a 1 hour class, it has to happen throughout people's lives. And then I realized, oh, it's not just physical stress, there's all kinds of stress that goes on. So all of that is true. But the thing I wanted to share is, how did I get into healing? Because basically, I see myself as a healer. I got into healing because when I was a young person, a teenager, I witnessed my parents divorce. And it was extremely painful coming from a culture, I'm Korean, coming from a culture where it was just not done. It was extremely painful. And I witnessed my parents break down in very specific ways, attempted suicide, nervous breakdown. And I did not have the tools to help. All I knew was that I wanted them to not suffer. I wanted them to know that I was there with them. And so in that experience, I said, I need to learn what the heck to do. How do I actually help people effectively? And I was way over my head as a teenager. I couldn't even handle myself. I didn't understand myself and my own emotions. All I knew was that I didn't want them to suffer. So that began for me my journey of seeking healing, seeking wisdom, trying to understand the human mind and human emotions. So I began to understand and seek, how does the mind work? How do the emotions work? I sought Zen meditation. I learned about Tibetan Buddhism. I studied the great books of the Western world, all the philosophies of what is it all about, right? And the touchstone question was, how can I be of service? How can I develop compassion in a way that's effective and makes a difference for people? And even though I didn't know how to do it back then, I realized I had the bandwidth to ask the question, because not everyone, when you're faced with that kind of emotional intensity, many people check out. I'm out of here. I'm going to go seek entertainment. I'm going to dull out with substances. And I feel very grateful that for whatever reason, my response was to ask the question, how can I be of service? How can I really understand and help people who need it the most?
What I love about what you're doing is you are helping the helpers. You're helping the change makers. So you're that little trim tab that is going to make this little adjustment that is then going to help the bigger rudder on both the boats and the aircraft, whatever it is, be able to do their thing in their sphere, be able to fly through their skies and sail through their seas to make that big splash and big impact.
That is exactly the point for me. And I realized everybody needs stress management. And it was a revelation to me that I decided to focus on this group of people. I mean, yes, it is still broad: healers, educators, activists, and leaders. And I asked myself, why am I doing that? Because I want to help everybody, right? It's the passion I have. It scratches my itch. For example, one of my clients empowers women for the sake of saving the environment.
Oh,
Do you see what I mean? She works with indigenous women in the Amazon. And when I started to work with her, she had a very different demeanor. She was very modest and retiring and soft spoken and didn't put herself out there. And when I began to work with her, she began to feel safe enough to dive very deep and do some very deep healing on childhood wounds. It just blew me away. It was unbelievable how courageous she was. But she felt hope that I, in a short time, because my whole thing is I work with you in a short time. My background is in clinical psychology. I don't want you to be addicted to therapy sessions. I want you to heal and get the hell out of your little painful box and shine in the world in the most passionate, heartfelt way that you have in your heart to do. And I think she felt a little inkling of hope, enough that I could be there and witness and help her reboot the emotion. It was too overwhelming for her to face. We did that together, and she dove deep, and I showed her some practices to continue healing beyond our 30-minute sessions, so that she was empowered to continue that journey healing. And we continue to check in, but to see her now is unbelievably beautiful, because she has created an organization where she is flowering, she is joyful, she's full of life, she is out there, visible, smiling, and she's creating the environment for countless women to say, I want that. I feel hope seeing you, because you're not in your shell. You have dared to come out of your shell and shine. So, who do you think is going to be more effective at saving the environment? You know, when I see that, I think, oh my God. And not only that, as she was healing these inner wounds that kept her in her shell, as she became more confident, as she found her voice more, she was able to set up high-level meetings with environmental officials in her country that have shifted policies.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So not only does it ripple out in her example of other women seeing her, but it has rippled out in her effectiveness and ability to be a powerful change maker, because she's not fighting the inner battle.
My next question was going to be, what is the most rewarding aspect of your work? But I think we've heard it. That's got to be it, isn't it? Such a perfect example, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's just one. This is why I do this work, and this is why I pick this group of people who have such big dreams and goals. And here's the other thing. I see change making as a spiritual path. It has the potential to truly be a spiritual path where people can become more themselves, more authentic in their genuine selves, by joining their sense of presence, their sense of who they are, their sense of their genuine gifts to the world, their passion for seeing change happen. All of this can be unleashed in the path of taking on these big changes. And the tool that is often missing for change makers is being okay with claiming the spirituality of the path. I once heard a very, very highly respected executive, corporate executive, and he was respected because of his incredibly calm demeanor, his acute decision making, his incredible listening skills. It turns out he was a closet meditator, because back then it wasn't really done. It had certain negative connotations that he thought would impair his reputation. And my thought is, my gosh, come out of the closet, share why it is. And he actually credited meditation with his ability to be a powerful leader. If he were actually out front with it and said, this is what I find is incredibly powerful as a way to become a powerful leader, a centered leader. Imagine the impact of that, the ripple effect of that. I had one of my clients, he's now dean of a major business school. And he had asked me to come in to work with classes of his executives who were pursuing business school. Now, these were already executives out in the world, but they didn't have a degree, an MBA. So they were coming to his university in this executive MBA program. And to his credit, said, all of you need to go to Unyong's class. I highly recommend it because we are stretching ourselves, learning new ideas. At that time, I was still teaching stress burner yoga. And this was a predominantly male group, 90+%. For him to say that to a group of mostly men, in their minds, it was like all about stretch pants and being flexible, right? It was a hippy dippy thing. For him to say, you need to go, over 90% of people came.
Wow.
And I framed it as executive skills for stress management, using yoga as a vehicle. And they got it. Their eyes were wide, and we used it as a mirror to see where some of their challenges might be in terms of perfectionism, overexertion, being on a burnout track. And it was beautiful. I was invited back for many, many years until he got a promotion and became the dean of the business school. So he was no longer in charge of the executive programs. And sadly, the person following him didn't get it, that the way I was teaching yoga as a vehicle for executive skills on stress management. So there are people who get it out there. But this is a paradigm shift for the kind of leaders we're going to need. You talked about this strange era we're in.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We are in such a strange era because we're inundated with negative images. However, I challenge everyone out there. That is not the whole picture. And the kind of leader that I am cultivating, that we are needing in this world, are those that have the skill set, that spiritual skill set of self management, self love, presence, and how to work with energy, how to work with their own energy and other people's energies. Like martial artists, this is my vision, is that we need to be martial artists because there's a lot of nasty stuff happening out there. We don't just need nice people. We need good, deep, courageous people who know how to handle crisis, who aren't thrown off by attackers, who know how to sweep that energy around and embrace. It's going to need some creative solutions out there.
We need Bruce Lee back.
We need to cultivate the spirit of Bruce Lee, of martial artists who know they're fearless. They know how to take the energy that's coming at them and transform it like alchemy.
Well, you're talking about stuff I love. And what about your work has surprised you the most?
That's such a great question, Joy. I think the thing that surprises me the most is how much fun it is. One of the things that I have learned is that if you make it into a party, people are going to want to come, right? If you make it feel like a poke in the eye, they're going to run away.
Yes. Well said. Are there any misconceptions about what you do that you've encountered?
Yes. Some people think, oh, it's so hard. It's going to take forever to become calm and de-stress. You can't understand how stressful my life is. So the misconception is that it's going to be too hard, it's going to take too long, and there's no hope. And I'm saying, I've seen it. I've seen it turn around quickly, easily, and you can experience it every second, just like we did in the breath we took. That's one widely known and little used tools. Think about it. How many of us remember to breathe in the day? How many of us have a conscious breath? It's like a whole day can go by and you remember, oh my gosh, I don't think I took a breath. And in that moment, calming signals are instantly sent to our amygdala, fight or flight part of our brain. Instantly, our blood pressure instantly goes down. Our heart rate slows down. Our cortisol levels slow down in that one breath. So it's not a Mount Everest. It's one step.
That makes it
Yeah,
sound so less scary and daunting.
absolutely.
As a business owner and a solopreneur, what have been some of your biggest challenges about balancing your desire to help people with all of the intricacies and ins and outs and sales funnels involved in running a business? How has that worked out for you, that balancing act?
That is such a great question, Joy. There are both pros and cons to being a solopreneur. One of the pros is getting to create and craft a vision and a business around it that is yours and is totally expression of your own dreams and goals. So that's super wonderful. The challenge of being a solopreneur is that you are by yourself. But look at what we're doing. You get to find other solopreneurs, work with them, and find ways to help each other. And there are so many interesting people like yourself doing fabulous things that make a difference and reach so many people. And so, one of my biggest learnings recently, and that's part of our connection, is finding other people with whom to partner and to co create and to synergize. Because 1 + 1 is not 2, because it's on an energetic level. When synergy happens, oh my gosh, watch out. When you join your energy with someone else, I'll give an example. If you do a task, it can be hard work. You're doing it on your own. It's like, it can be a slog, right? But if you help someone else do their task, it's so much easier. It's like, wow, it's so much easier to help you than for me to do a task on my own. I mean, like, this is so much fun. It's so much fun talking with you. And I hope people feel the energy of synergy, because I want to ask people, who are people you would love to spend more time with?
That's a great question.
I always ask this. Who are people you would love to spend more time with? Who are people you would love to work alongside? Just being able to be together is the reward in itself. But then getting to do something together that's meaningful, how cool is that?
Have there been any shifts that you've seen in your industry? You and I have talked a little bit about the collective consciousness rumblings that are going on
Mhm.
right now. But as far as your specific industry, have you seen any shifts there?
I think there's definitely more of a hunger and an openness for personal growth. People are lonely. They're cut off from their hearts often. Just those two alone. My heart hurts because I know that's true of so many people. And often people put on a face to show the people that they meet. To roughly quote a T.S. Eliot poem, we put on a face to meet the faces that we meet. And underneath is a deep existential hurt and suffering. And there's a deep need for making friends with our very existence. There's a deep need for being friends with the moment and to awaken to this precious human life, to awaken to how precious that is. In Buddhism, they say that the preciousness of human life is, if there's a turtle that comes up once every million years to poke its head above the surface of this ocean and come back down for another million years, and for it to poke its head through a ring floating on the ocean surface. That poking its head through the ring, when that happens, there's a precious human life that happens. That is how rare it is. In Buddhism, that sense of preciousness of our lives is foundational. And I feel the hurt of so many people not feeling that, not appreciating that every morning they get to love another day, get to see beauty around them, something of beauty. They can smile. So I will give you one little thing that helped me turn around. As a young person, I was struggling through a lot of emotions. One of the things that I struggled with was a lot of self-hatred, a lot of self-criticism, and that got me depressed. Why aren't you this? That was stupid. Why? Over and over, that was my mantra. So you know what I did to turn it around? People are going to laugh, but it worked. He said, that's not good to keep that self-talk going. It's not good. I knew that. So I went to the mirror. First thing in the morning, I go to the bathroom mirror and I look at myself and I said to myself, I love you unconditionally, exactly as you are. Every morning I would say that. And it was hard at first. I was like, yeah, right. And it's so hard. It's so hard to go from that place of self-loathing to a place of saying that to myself. I love you unconditionally, exactly as you are. And every morning, though it was a struggle, I kept saying that. And then it got easier and it got easier. Because it's a long phrase, I shortened it to smiling at myself, just beaming with that thought. And then I would smile and wink at myself.
Oh, it's adorable. I love that.
Yeah. So I invite people to try that. Anytime you hold yourself in judgment when you see your reflection, just give yourself a wink and a smile just to touch base with the truth of how delightful you actually are. Just wink and smile at yourself and see what happens.
What is something you can share about yourself that might surprise people?
Oh, my goodness. I am such a foodie. Oh
Oh,
my gosh. My husband laughs because I'm so treat motivated and food motivated. I and my puppy, we are both together. I said, you can train me to do anything. There was a treat involved.
my dog and I are right there with you.
But I've used that to my advantage, which is like if I have to do something onerous, I say, okay, when I'm done, I get to have this treat.
That's my lifestyle. That's exactly the I do that every day. Yesterday, well, it wasn't a food treat. It was once I get done with storage, I get to take a shower.
Yeah.
That was my big thrill to take a shower. And today, once we're done with the interview, I get to order ceviche from my favorite place. So,
Oh, how wonderful.
but I've got the tab open, ready to go. The minute we get off the call, it's bad. What can I tell you? Along the same lines, this will tell everybody everything they could ever know about you. If you are into movies, what are your 3 favorite movies and
Oh
why?
my goodness. I've been contemplating. This was like the hardest question.
Oh,
There's
cool.
so many. Oh my gosh. Well, the one that came up immediately was The Sound of Music. I've always loved that one. When I first saw the movie, I related to Gretel, the youngest one, and now I'm like well past Maria in terms of who I relate to. Maybe it's the mother, Reverend Mother. I don't know.
You're nicer than she is.
That's definitely one of my favorites. Oh my gosh. And then the movie Hugo
Oh
just
my
blows my
gosh.
mind.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I didn't mean to
yeah,
freak out.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no, no. Oh, now I know what I need to watch this weekend. I adore Hugo. The
Oh,
music, Asa Butterfield, you name it. I'm all over Hugo. It's my favorite Scorsese movie, maybe.
Oh my
I do
gosh.
like Goodfellas, but Hugo, oh my gosh. Okay,
Oh, wow.
okay, continue.
The little known movie made in South Africa called Animals Are Beautiful People.
Oh, yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
heard of it?
Oh, yeah, I saw it.
You're kidding.
Oh, well, I like South African cinema.
Yeah. I'm not sure when it was made, but it was kind of made around the same time as The Gods Must Be Crazy.
Is that the 80s?
It could be, yeah, something
Oh
like
my
that.
gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking it up. Oh my gosh, it's so much earlier than I remembered. It's 1974.
Really?
Yeah, but I thought it came out as the same time as that. Nope, it's about 10 years before, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that made a big impact on me at the time. I saw it at an art cinema. That was
Mhm.
my thing. But I didn't see it when it came out. I literally saw it in the 80s. And can you share with people what about it you love so much?
The Animals Are Beautiful People.
Yes, because it's a documentary, basically.
Yeah, it was basically a documentary, but it had so much love of nature, the wonder of nature.
We often think of nature as being so serious. It made nature fun, I think.
I know, like the elephants, the drunk elephants on
Yes.
on ripened marula fruits,
Right, right,
falling over. But I watched that with my children when they were little, and they wanted to watch it over and over and over again. We never tired of it. I never tired of it either. Oh, we loved it. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I was never into warthogs before. So your overall assessment then is that you just see the joy and beauty in the tiny aspects of life and you celebrate them and you take your time to smell the roses as you go and to encourage others to do the same so that they don't have to have stress. They can have a nice, enjoyable life, basically.
You know what I realized I need to do? I need to communicate more the I'm going to kick your ass aspects of myself. In terms of kicking your ass, tough love.
Really? I can't imagine you being very good at tough love. No offense. You're
I know, exactly. That's what I need to cultivate. I want people to feel happy and thriving, and I want them to know that it is not a luxury to take care of yourself.
right, right.
If you think it is, I'm going to kick your ass.
You'll still say it in a nice way. That's all there is to it. If anything, you're going to pinch them and giggle away. You know, you're not fooling anybody.
So,
All the neat stuff that you do and all the incredible change that you're helping to spur on and foster. What are you looking forward to next?
oh, I'm looking forward to gathering a group for my next iFlow program, a larger, deeper coaching on these principles. And that's going to be later this year.
Depending on your schedule, we would love to have you back at some point. And when you come back, would you be able to tell us more about that and how people can get information on that?
Sure. And maybe the next call, we'll talk about getting in touch with your inner kick-ass Bruce Lee or Michelle Yeoh.
We love, if possible, on Sundays to give our listeners gifts. Perchance, do you have any sort of gifty you might give them?
I could give them a teaser. It's like an introductory module to my 5-week online course.
That's very fancy and very, very generous. Are you sure you want to go?
I would be happy to. Absolutely. It's a short video and it can be played over and over again for you to get it in. And I don't know, maybe if there are enough people who want to, we could have a Zoom coaching session based on that.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Unyong. That's so generous. Well, that just goes with your spirit. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
Oh,
On our non-interview podcast segments, we assign our listeners a tiny task each day. What sort of tiny task would you like to assign them today?
I would like to assign them the wink and smile in the morning.
Oh, good. Good, good, good.
Yeah.
And I would like to add to that a little bit and ask them to possibly do it for a few days in a row and to journal their journey with it. Like the first day they did it, how did they feel? The second day, maybe doing it for a week and take notes on the ways that they changed as they did it each day.
That sounds really good. And you can do either the wink and the smile or the phrase, whichever you like, or change it. But just
Can,
take that split second moment with you in the mirror, with you yourself, to love on yourself.
could you
Yeah.
repeat the phrase that you use?
The phrase I used was, I love you unconditionally, just the way you are. The short version is, you are enough.
And a shorter version is smile and wink.
Yep.
What
Uh,
advice would you give to someone who feels like they are right on the verge of burnout?
oh, I would say give yourself a big hug right now and know that you are a precious, beloved being. You always were and you always will be.
Oh, I loved that, especially that last part, because sometimes we think, yeah, 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 I know I'm loved now, but we forget that we always were, no matter what we've done, and
Yeah.
that no matter what we might do going forward, we can still count on that. We will
Yes.
always be precious. And oh my gosh, that just got me. Thank you, Unyong. Are there any last thoughts you'd like to share before we sign off?
I want to thank you, Joy, for being such a bright spark in the world. Not only a spark, but just a huge bright light. You are well named. And I thank you for the opportunity to be here and to share my thoughts. It really helped me too. I feel like I opened myself up to my higher wisdom self to come through and give me a download.
Oh, my pleasure. And the last thing I want to say to everyone is do yourself a favor and go watch Hugo. And if you've never seen it before, Animals Are Beautiful People will just make you smile to see animals being goofy.
Mhm.
With that, I will wish everyone a beautiful week and enjoy everything that Unyong has given you today. And we will have her back whether she likes it or not. Charisse, everyone. Tuta.